The Puck Portfolio with Andy MacNeil.
Hey, welcome to the Puck Portfolio. My name is Andy MacNeil. I'm your host with CanadaSportsBetting.ca. This show is presented by our sponsor, NorthStar Bets. You can check them out via the link in the description below. Big winner on the Boston Bruins in game one of their second round series versus the Florida Panthers. Of course, both of those teams vying for a spot in the Eastern Conference final. The Bruins now lead that series 1-0. The Panthers, they're going to push back hard in game number two. The Bruins were a plus 148 underdog in game number one. So a pretty nice payout there, and they're just as big of an underdog as they were in game one in game number two, maybe even bigger at some shops, seeing as much as, maybe better than plus 155 out there right now, but plus 150 definitely available. But I like the Bruins down to plus 145. I'm going to lock Boston in for one unit at plus 145. Those are the current odds available at NorthStar Bets. So, yeah, I know Florida's going to push hard in game number two, but I like the Bruins here. I don't think they should be as big of an underdog as they have been so far in this series. And I'm looking for them to take a 2-0 series lead. But let's talk about a matchup that is kicking off on Tuesday. The Dallas Stars host the Colorado Avalanche in what is probably the most anticipated matchup of the second round. The last postseason meeting between the Stars and the Avalanche was in 2020 second round, which Dallas won in 7 games. The Avalanche went 3-1 versus the Stars in the regular season. Dallas, of course, pulled off an epic comeback against the Vegas Golden Knights, the defending Stanley Cup champions, in the first round. However, because the Stars lost the first 2 games and had to win 4 out of the next 5, they've only had 1 day off to rest between the first and the second round. And the Avalanche, on the other hand, have been off since April 30th. So it'll be interesting to see if Colorado is ready for Dallas, who will definitely be in game shape. But the Stars are going to have to bring it offensively. They scored just 2.2 goals per 60 minutes in round number 1 versus Vegas. Of course, Wyatt Johnson and Jason Robertson led the way, much like they did in the regular season. However, Dallas needs a lot more from Rupe Hintz, Matt Duchene, and Joe Pavelski. Hintz finished the first round with just 1 goal. That was his only point. Duchene, he picked up a goal and an assist, while Pavelski did not register a point in the series. So it's likely going to take 4 or more to beat Colorado on most nights. And that's something Dallas only did once in the opening round versus Vegas. So, of course, the Stars are really good on defense. They only allowed 2.2 goals per 60 minutes in round 1, but the Avalanche are obviously going to be a much bigger test than the Vegas Golden Knights were. They're going to be a lot tougher to defend. No team scored more goals per 60 minutes than the Colorado Avalanche during the regular season, and that was the case in round 1 versus the Winnipeg Jets, where they scored 4+ goals in all 5 games. In fact, the Avs scored more goals than any other team in the first round, despite only playing 5 games. They scored nearly twice as many goals as the Dallas Stars. Not to mention, the Avalanche scored 5 goals per game against the Stars in the regular season, but Jake Ottinger was a lot better down the stretch, and no team in the Western Conference was better at preventing goals in the final 3 months of the regular season than the Dallas Stars. The Stars lost the first 3 games they played against Colorado this season, but they picked up a big 7-4 win over Colorado about a month ago on April 7th. And that's how the Stars are going to have to win games in this series, as stopping the Avalanche's attack is not going to be easy, nor is it going to be an option. And as far as the Avalanche are concerned, they're back in the second round for the first time since winning the Stanley Cup in 2022. The Avs made quick work of the Winnipeg Jets, losing the first game, but winning the next 4 in the first round to take the series in just 5 games. A gentleman's sweep. And in that first round, Colorado scored 28 goals. Like I said, almost double Dallas's 16, despite playing 2 fewer games and facing the likely Vezina Trophy winner in Connor Hellebuck. Winnipeg, though, was a so-so defensive team, mostly relying on Hellebuck's goaltending, while Dallas is one of the best defensive teams in the league. The Jets were just okay ranking 17th in high danger shots against per 60 minutes at 5-on-5, according to hockey stats website Natural Stat Trick, whereas the Stars rank second in that category. So there's a big difference there. In other words, it's unlikely that Colorado will win unless they fill the Stars' net, right? I mean, the Avalanche won 24 of their final 41 games in the regular season, but they scored 4 or more goals in 20 of those games. In fact, the Avalanche are just 10 and 29 this season when they score 3 or fewer goals in a game, which means they can't afford to sit back. Ottinger might not be as good as Hellebuck individually, but the Stars' overall defensive strength makes them a much more formidable team than Colorado's last opponent, the Jets. And while the Avalanche were good defensively, I think there are some holes here because they were a mediocre defensive team during the regular season. Colorado ranked 17th in goals against per 60 minutes. And the other 7 teams that are left in the Stanley Cup playoffs currently all ranked among the top 10 teams when it comes to preventing goals in all situations. So the Avs, they're not going to be able to rely on Alexander Georgiev in goal. They're going to have to win in spite of him. Hopefully, he plays decent enough like he did in round one from their perspective. But, why would they rely on him when they have stars like Nathan McKinnon, Mikko Rantanen, and Cale Makar, who all scored 9 points in that first round series versus the Jets? So the Avs are set up pretty good offensively because they've scored 4+ goals in 7 out of their last 10 meetings versus the Dallas Stars. Like I said, a very good defensive team, including the last 5 meetings against Dallas. That trend is going to have to continue if the Avalanche are going to find success here in round number 2. But this isn't the regular season. Dallas is going to be a lot more committed to defense. And I think this is going to be an epic showdown between two of the most talented teams in the NHL. And there's a good chance that it goes 6 or 7 games. But I think the Stars are being offered at a pretty generous price here, minus 110 available on the series line. It's a pick 'em at NorthStar Bets. However, by my estimation, I think Dallas should be closer to a minus 130 favorite. They've got about a 56.7% chance of winning this series. Of course, they've got home ice advantage. The series kicks off on Tuesday, and I'm betting the Stars to win this one at minus 110, looking for them to move on to the Western Conference final. And speaking of the Western Conference final, their opponent will be decided in the other Western Conference matchup between the Edmonton Oilers and the Vancouver Canucks. I'll be back on Wednesday to preview that series from a betting perspective. Until then, enjoy the games. Good luck with your bets and gamble responsibly.